Hi, everyone. Welcome to Holiday and Donation Planning. We are going to get started in 2 minutes. We'll get started in 2 minutes, right at 2. Less than a minute. Get your water, your coffee, whatever you need, and we'll start soon. Okay, let's get started. Today we are talking about holiday and donation planning. I combined these topics because usually come holiday season, we are adding a lot of donation events, a lot of fundraising, whether it's between the holidays themselves, it's attached to one of the holidays, that kind of thing. So we're going to talk about them in tandem today. My name is Marie Gress. I'm a licensed master level social worker with specialties in macro practice in older adults. I'm the CEO and Chief Organization Development Specialist at CoverPage LLC. I'm also the founder of Wise Cove. That is a senior center professional community. If you have any questions about what we do at CoverPage or Wiseco, feel free to reach out to me. My email address is right here. A little bit more about CoverPage and why we specifically are having this conversation. At CoverPage, like I said, we're organization development specialists. We use the systems and strength-based approaches to make improvements across your agency's departments to increase efficiency, effectiveness, and impact. We found that the 3 most common pain points of our clients tend to be in the arenas of management and development, narrative and design, and then technology solutions and support. Our conversation today around holiday and donation planning, that falls underneath the management and development umbrella. As a manager, you need to have a plan. You need to know what's coming next. You need to know what still you need to plan for, etc. As a leader, it is really important that we look to see what other people are doing, that we are getting feedback from other people, that we are using our allies and our competition in a way that helps us succeed, that helps us innovate, that kind of thing. And when I say competition in the nonprofit world, it sounds competitive, right? It sounds almost cutthroat because that's what we think about for businesses. That tends to not be the case for nonprofits that I work with. There may be other food pantries in your area. Technically, they're competitions, but you work together, right? And so we're learning together. We're covering each other's strengths and weaknesses, that kind of thing. And from a development perspective, I often overlap program development and fund development. In order to raise funds, you need to have a mission, you need to have services showing that their funds that you are getting are going towards the intent of the donor. And for program development, as you plan your services, I work a lot with senior centers. So as you plan your actual programs, as you plan holiday fundraisers, what are some things that you can have in mind? So this is why we at Cover Page are having this conversation with you. Our chat is open, so feel free to drop any questions that you have. You can leave it public, you can turn it private, however you are most comfortable interacting in that way. I do want to let you know that our agenda today, we're going to walk through the major holidays coming up in the season. We're going to then talk about end of year requests, and planned giving is how we will end our talk today. First, when it comes to any of the holidays, I do like to throw out some easy peasy filler ideas. So if you do work with children, if you are a food pantry, community garden, if you are a church, a senior center, here are some easy plug and play ideas that you can adapt to the different seasons, the different holidays. If you're strapped on cash, if you need just one more thing to fill up your agenda, these are all fun, interactive. You can adapt them at will. The first one is a neighborhood scavenger hunt. I've seen so many sites do this, and it's been really fun to see the unique flair everybody gives. One site was doing a smash book kind of idea for the fall. So the children, this was a children's group, had to walk around and find different colored leaves. They had to find acorns, pine cones. They had to find some flowers, and they put it in a smash book. They got to smash these things in a book, which we know presses them and can help them last in some ways. So it ends up being this really unique keepsake that people have a fond memory of, especially in this time of COVID, which I should say that if you're watching this as a replay, it is October of 2020. So we are 8 months into the COVID pandemic. Some of the examples that I use here may be closely tied to how we've adapted during COVID. But I think any of these ideas that I brought to you today can be used past COVID. They can extrapolate them, use them again at will, however you see fit. So they did a neighborhood scavenger hunt smash book. Someone else had community members hide things in their windows. So maybe bears, maybe rainbows, books, that kind of thing. And people had to take pictures. They had to collect all of the different types of pictures in order to win the scavenger hunt. And then there were prizes for anybody who completed the whole thing. I also saw some senior centers do these scavenger hunts with a bingo. So they randomized the bingo sheet, right? And they distribute it to their members via newsletter, email, that kind of thing. And as people took walks around their neighborhood or communities, they got to check off these different boxes. And whoever got bingo got to contact the center. And again, they won a prize. So how fun are some of those ideas? I really like the scavenger hunt. You're getting people outside. They'll have to say hi to people that they're passing by. They have this shared experience that's semi shoulder to shoulder. Everyone's doing the same thing. They may not be physically all together. They're getting outside for the fresh air and the vitamin D, sunshine. So, yeah, that's something to think about as an easy peasy filler idea. Another one is a Facebook movie watch party. You have to know how to handle Facebook a little bit, but there's watch party sections on your Facebook page where you can show a movie to people who want to attend, which is really neat. I would double check on any licensing that needs to happen around that movie. I don't think you're allowed to charge for this. So that's something to keep in mind if you have to rent the movie for 50 people or whatever. If there's a fee that goes along with that, I don't think you're allowed to charge for Facebook movie watch parties, but look into it and see what happens. They've changed the rule a couple of times, and that's why I'm honestly not entirely sure. I also don't want to say something on here and then you watch this at a later date and it turns out the rules change. So make sure you're checking with Facebook. Make sure you're checking with movie licenses. There are groups and companies out there that offer one-time licenses or year-long licenses, that kind of thing. Photo contests. I think this is really fun, especially in the holiday season. There's a costume party you can do for each of the holidays. And then they take pictures and submit them. When when your clients submit their photo picture to you of say a Halloween contest, you could post those on social media and allow people to vote. You could make a slideshow. So you as a staff get to choose. That way it's not just a popularity contest. You as a staff get to choose, but then show off everybody's costume. That is a really fun idea you could do a lot with for each of the different holidays that are coming up. Curbside meals is another thing that you could offer to your clients. Senior centers obviously have been doing this. If you're not familiar with what senior centers do, there's usually a lunch portion of their programming. And during COVID, senior centers were some of the first to pivot to offering a curbside meal as far as our community-based service industry goes. Obviously, restaurants may have been a little bit faster, but curbside meals, make them holiday themed. Maybe you want to do some sort of cooking class, so you give them the ingredients to make their meal. Maybe you have a sliding scale. So if you have homebound clients or clients with disabilities, you do them the prepaid or the pre-made meal. And if you have clients that are more able-bodied or are young families, maybe you give them the ingredients and they have to make it together. Fun ideas. Easy peasy. And I would also challenge you to be very creative with your spaces. The amount of time we have to interact with our clients now in person, if you're doing any in-person things, an appointment, a food pantry pickup, you're allowing people to come to your community garden, be really creative with how you are making these spaces. Let's say you decide to do a photo contest. Maybe you put in front of your social service sign, you have a Santa. So they take a picture with themselves, this Santa cutout, and your social service sign. So you end up with a little bit of extra marketing mixed in as well. And then the client is the one posting that. There's always, whenever you're posting pictures of your clients, I hope I don't need to tell you this, but I'm going to just in case. If you are ever going to post a picture of your client on social media, your website, make sure you have a photo release. They have to have said, okay, you can use my picture. You have to. Other ways to be creative with spaces. Let's say you're doing the curbside meals. They're not coming all the way in. Maybe you have all of your volunteers dressed up for Christmas the week before, wearing elf ears and Santa costumes. Maybe you have them dressed up as pilgrims or Native Americans. There's different things you can do. You can be really intentional and really creative with just the space that you have and just the people that you have. And I encourage you to think about those when you're working through any of these ideas. We're going to move right along. I see there's a couple of comments. I am going to answer questions on the holiday things at the end of talking through the holidays. So if you want to answer each other, that's great. If you want to share ideas here, that's great. But I need to keep moving. I have a lot of content for you today, which is good news. So Halloween, like I said, this is October that we're recording this. Halloween is just around the corner. Likely you already have a couple of holiday programs planned, but you're looking for that extra thing. You're looking for a little bit more engagement because engagement has been hard for some of your clients during this time. I have 3 unique ideas for you. The first one, actually, the first 2 are versions of a similar idea. You've been booed. So this is version 1. You take a trick or treat bucket, or if you're short on cash, maybe it's a Halloween cup from the dollar store, and one of those plastic card cups. You fill it with candy, activities, maybe a special note, at least something note wise that says you've been booed by organization X. We care about you. We miss you. We can't wait to see you. And next time you come by in 2021, that kind of thing. The concept with this is to take this present, the surprise present, and drop it off at their house, knock on the door, and run away. That way they are completely surprised. There is no like, oh, thank you so much. Like, don't hang around, because they're going to feel like they need to thank you over and over, that kind of thing. If you want to watch from your window, them opening that up and kind of wave as they go past, as they pick it up and you're leaving, that's okay. But I really encourage you to just leave it, knock on the door, and run away. It'll be so much fun. And it's a way to not only increase your spirit, but your client's spirit around the holidays. Their COVID numbers are going up right now. And anything we can do to add a little bit of levity to people's lives is well worth it. And I mean, candy, right? The second you've been booed idea is taking yard signs of ghosts or zombies or whatever you want, skeletons, and you put them all over somebody's yard. The more, the better. And you put a sign on their door, or maybe one of the signs you put in their yard that says, you've been booed by, and then your organization name, and then instructions on what that family or person has to do next. Maybe they do it to a neighbor, maybe they do it to another client. They shouldn't have your client list, so if they just know that somebody else uses it, that's great. But can you see how fun that would be? Have you ever seen those flamingos? People do you've been pinked or something, and they leave flamingos all over people's yards. This is roughly the same idea. Just, again, a little bit of fun, especially if they're doing it to each other. You have a couple sets of these signs going around. It's going to get on social media. You're going to end up with some social equity, which is really fun. You're not doing it to get donations directly. You're not doing it for altruism. You're not doing it for any of these things besides having a good time, adding some levity. And I think Halloween is an especially neat time to do that, because there's no, depending on how you spend Halloween, of course, but the traditional American Halloween is just for funsies. We're not doing it to remember the 95 Theses anymore. We're not doing Dia de los Muertos. We are just asking for candy, and now we're signing people's yards. Levity. I love it. This next idea, this third one, comes from one of our Wise Cove members. Wise Cove is a senior center professional community that I run. And what they did was they had a paranormal experience. They had a paranormal group who do the whole looking for ghosts and the beepers and the lights and the talking and all of that stuff. They had them come and do a presentation, have an experience. People could watch this as if they were watching TV. They did it in that senior center's site. And then they had another follow-up talk so they could answer some more questions and things. It was really interesting. I was sent the video, and yeah, it was really cool. A neat idea. If you have any other neat ideas, feel free to drop them in the chat right now. Again, I'll answer questions at the end of the holidays, but I encourage you to share ideas with each other. This is an excellent time and platform to do that. Don't just take my ideas, take each other ideas. All right, next up is Thanksgiving. Don't you like that little turkey? I like that turkey. The first activity I want to show you for Thanksgiving is a gratitude slideshow. So, what this allows you to do is it allows you to have your staff and or volunteers talking directly with your client base again. I say again because at the beginning of COVID, all the sites that I talked to were really great about reaching out to their clients. Do you need anything? Do you need more food? Do you need someone to go to the grocery store for you? Do you still have your job? Things like that. We were really intentional about checking in with each other. But we got some fatigue from that, right? Everyone kept doing okay. Everyone found their systems. We're not checking in one-on-one like we used to. So now is a great time. Like, hey, it's been 8 months. How you doing? Where are you at? Can you tell me something that you're grateful for? It doesn't even have to be about your agency. Just what are you grateful for? I'm grateful for my son. I'm grateful for my daughter. I'm grateful for your agency. It's great if they say your agency. I'm grateful for food, my health, all of those things that no one I know has passed away from COVID. That's great. Those are all really good things. So it gets your staff and volunteers talking with your client base again, which is really important, especially if you're a site that is planning reopening. You have to touch base and see where people are at, see what sorts of processes, expectations they have in place. It's an excellent conduit for that. You can create something meaningful for your clients. So if you're making a slideshow, the assumption is that you are posting that somewhere. So this is now meaningful content for your clients to see, for your community to see, and for your stakeholders to see that you created something like this. You were doing the work to make this thing happen, right? You walk away with some social credit, which both the Halloween activities we talked about gives you social credit, and this making a gratitude slideshow will build social credit in your community. And I don't want you to do these things just to build social credit because that increases your donations. It's been proven to increase donations. But you definitely want to be intentional with anything that you're offering, that you have that in mind. You are a business and you need funds to operate. So you do walk away with social credit. Even if you're not going to use that for donation purposes, you can use it for your standing in the community, the level of trust and authority you have in the community. When you have social credit, you have more power. You also walk away with testimonials. The people who do say things explicitly about your site, you can make a completely different slideshow after the gratitude one and put those all together. You can post that on your Facebook page. When you have your cover photo, you can actually make that a video. You can put it on your website. You can put it on your YouTube. I'm not really sure about Instagram. I don't do a ton on Instagram, but you can post that everywhere, which is really great. If you are not quite sure what I mean by a slideshow, or if you feel intimidated by the thought, I want to show you really quick Adobe Spark. Adobe has a great reputation of being a premier Photoshop video editor, et cetera, et cetera. People make logos using Adobe. They do graphic design using Adobe. It is top of the line. It's great. They do have a few free resources out there, and one is Adobe Spark. They do have upgrades, as you can see. This account that you're seeing right now is a free one that I made this morning. And as you have projects, they'll all lay them out as tiles. You can edit the project that you were working on. I like this. It always has little like good things to say or little tips. It will give you the tutorial on how to create your slideshow. You can see it's only a minute long, the tutorial. It's not like you're going to be working on this all day. So when I created this, I chose a nonprofit template. They give you templates, and then kind of went from there. So this is Gratitudes 2020. I can click on the different slides I've created. I can click in here if I want to smiley face, make more text. On the image ones, you can drag and drop the image because it's the free version. They're going to have their Adobe logo in the corner, which personally is totally fine with me. And then in here, you can put your quote. Sorry, my cord's in the way. Sally said XYZ. Thanks. You can see how that works. Because this is a template, you don't have a ton of options on how to move it. You see, I can't actually make this box bigger. I can make the text smaller or bigger. It saves, it adds its own little boxes around it. You can see, you can search for other photos. You can have the screen set up in different ways. I love that laugh. Look at that laugh. That is a real laugh. You could have it just plain text. And at the end, you can put your agency name. It'll tell you the time period here. You can add music. You can see music over here in the corner. Themes, you can resize things. There's lots of different little things you can do, but they make it accessible, easy, and it's free. So drag and drop a few things, upload your videos, that kind of stuff. Adobe Spark makes this slideshow idea accessible. The second idea I have for you around Thanksgiving is leaf raking. Depending on where you are, your leaves are falling at different times. Maybe you're in the desert climate and you don't actually have leaves. I'm sure there's something similar that you could do in your community that has a similar type of impact. But use your staff, your volunteers, use community members, school groups, youth groups, sports teams. This could be kid teams, or if you're in a metropolitan area that has a professional sports team love doing things like this. They want to give back to their community, and it also honestly gives them publicity. We were talking about social credit, and that does that for them too. But honestly, they look for a chance to give back. I love community leaf raking. So I have worked in several community-based services, and I have organized several leaf raking opportunities. The first few were pretty rough, figuring out a good way to attach. It was university students my first year. So how to partner a university student group to a couple of my seniors' homes. That was difficult. Seemingly at first it was fine, and then they dropped out and I had to do the leaf raking for all of the clients that we had signed up for that day, which was exhausting. I made it happen because I made a promise and I keep my promises. And the next year was a little bit better, still some rough patches. I found for the groups that I was working with, it worked best if as a group became interested in doing leaf raking. I had a youth group come to my site and ask if they could do that. I told them, drive around town. You can watch for older adults and rake their leaves. Do some reconnaissance and then rake their leaves. I'm not allowed to give you their address without their permission. And I know that some of them would really benefit from it. So drive around the city, gave them a couple of pointers. My suggestion to them was to wait until everyone was inside. If someone was outside, don't rake their leaves, but because you want it to be a surprise. There are some other ways to do it depending on the regulations in your nonprofit. As a social worker, I keep my clients' information confidential, even if my organization is not requiring me to do that. But that does not mean the same for your community. Maybe you're part of a church and you can share that information a little bit more freely, and that's totally fine. or use a phone book. Phone books still exist, and there's still a lot of people in phone books. We're going to move on. Again, share any other ideas you have around Thanksgiving in the chat box, and we can revisit those in a bit. Giving Tuesday. So Giving Tuesday is a day of giving that happens the Tuesday after Thanksgiving. It was picked as Giving Tuesday because Friday was Black Friday. Saturday is Small Business Saturday. Sunday is the day of rest. And then Monday is Cyber Monday. So those are all days of consumerism. They are all days of purchasing things at a discount for yourself, purchasing things at a discount for others. And we just are spending on material things, consumer things. So Giving Tuesday is an intentional response to that encourages people to, to give locally, to local nonprofits, to give their time, their money, whatever it is, to give in that capacity. On this certain day, some sites will stretch it out for a week or two. But with Giving Tuesday, I encourage you to have a plan. I think I talk about that in my next bit about being intentional, but you can do Giving Tuesday. There's so many ideas out there. If you just Google Giving Tuesday, you're going to see a million wonderful ideas. And depending on what your needs are, who you're serving, you might go in a different direction. I would coordinate with any planned giving you already have. I'm a big advocate for planning. I'm a big advocate for planned giving. So coordinate your Giving Tuesday drives with that. You could do a mass mail Giving Tuesday drive, email campaign, phone call campaign, although I find volunteers get very weary after just a short period of time. With so many robocalls we get, they get a lot of voicemails, and it's difficult to actually reach anybody the way that we want to. You could use a crowdfunding site like Gofundme, and there are Facebook fundraisers. My words of advice around Facebook fundraisers is that if you are not set up with them as a charity, they collect the funds for you and they don't take anything off the top, which is amazing. They take the funds for you. If you're not set up as a charity, they pass that money over to a Network for Good. Network for Good also doesn't take anything from it, but they pass it on to you. And this process could take several months before you see anything. A lot of the donations you get are also anonymous, so you can't actually thank your funders, which some funders are going to like. They didn't give for thank yous and further solicitation. They gave because they liked your cause. But waiting that long for your funds may not be what you bargained for when you set up your Giving Tuesday campaigns. So if you were going to do something like that, I would encourage you to consider a crowdfunding site. I really like Gofundme. It will automatically deposit funds on your account, which makes things a lot easier. You can have teams, so your teams can help raise support for you in their social circles. And it's shareable to Facebook. You can post updates and all that kind of stuff. Really, really neat way that they do that. Another good site is Start Some Good. I like Start Some Good because you pledge, and only if you're going to make that final amount will you get the money. So your donors don't have to worry about, I'm giving this much right now, but what if they don't get it? What are they going to do with my money? Use it for something that I didn't say so. That could happen. But with Start Some Good, the money only gets given to the agency if they've made their goal. So 2,000, 5,000, 10,000, 100,000, if they have to get to their goal in order to get those funds. I hope that makes sense. My pro tip for Giving Tuesday is to have a concrete goal. It's good to have, this is the number we need, and this is why we need it. Or this is why we need funds, and this is the number that we have to get to make this project happen. I've seen people do thermometers, and that's effective. People feel excited whenever the ticker goes up, and that encourages people to give more. I've also, I did a fundraiser at my previous organization for a vehicle, towards a vehicle, and we drew a picture of the vehicle, and different parts of the vehicle were worth certain amounts. So let's say $100 bought a tire and $100 bought another tire. Somebody bought the tailgate. We had just general donations that allowed us to color in wherever we wanted. And then there was other people who were like, I want to purchase the window. I want to purchase this. And so it made it fun in a bizarre kind of way. And it's also really tangible. They know what their money is going to. They have a concrete goal, especially with something like a diagram. They know exactly, like, not even this vehicle, but I bought that window of that vehicle. Just really, really neat ways of doing that and encouraging engagement, encouraging giving. And speaking of encouraging engagement, that's my second tip for you. If you're going to do online fundraising, which most of us are during this COVID season, offer rewards. So thank yous are great. Doing a thank you on Facebook or Messenger, Instagram, like, okay, that gets you somewhere. Posting someone's name on your page, that gets you a little bit further. Having a board member call them to say thank you, yeah, that's great. And depending on your agency size, like, that is so touching and prestigious. But at the beginning of COVID, some of the most successful fundraisers I saw were ones that they were encouraging a further sense of engagement with their rewards. So you can think of public radio when they do their drives. They give you a tumbler, a bag, a shirt, your choice of one of the above. Maybe, I listen to a couple of NPR stations, and if you participate in one of their games or events, you could have someone record your voicemail for you. It doesn't cost you anything extra, but it's fun, encourages some engagement, some competition. I also saw virtual toilet paper and virtual paper towel, virtual cleaning products. If you gave a certain amount, everybody got a different type of toilet paper image or GIF. A comic book store in my town did a fundraiser, and for every donation, they offered to make a caricature of their kid or pet as a superhero, which is really cool. There's lots of fun ways to do this. And sometimes it's hard thinking out of the box because we've never had to do it like that before. So find somebody to bounce some ideas off of. You may just have to try a couple of things and see what takes and doesn't take. But offer rewards. Those are my 2 pro tips. Have a concrete goal, offer rewards. December holidays. I talk about December holidays, not because I am one of those people who say we shouldn't say Christmas, but there are so many holidays in December that you have ample opportunity to have some celebrations, some donation events, fundraiser events. There's lots of ways that you could incorporate some of these holiday things with your volunteer base, with your clients. Lots of fun things to do here. So first, I do want to talk about Christmas. There's a couple of different types of Christmases. So first, there's the religious Christmas. And even when you look in religious Christmas, there are multiple different types. So there's people who start celebrating Christmas now, take a break for Thanksgiving. Take a break for Thanksgiving and then continue celebrating Christmas until into January. Some people end right on Christmas Day. That's a preference. There's some groups that do not celebrate any Christmas until December 25th. And then they celebrate through, some of them go through January 6th, Epiphany. Some people go through the end of January or beyond. So, depending on your specific religious beliefs, you might be celebrating Christmas a little bit differently. There's secular Christmas. So you think of the run-of-the-mill American Christmas where we have the tree and we have the gift exchange and all of that stuff, but there's not that deeper meaning that religious Christmas tends to have or should have. And then there's Christmas as it is celebrated in other countries. And I like bringing this up because sometimes it just blows my mind. I'm in Michigan. Up in Michigan in the United States, we have plenty of snow during Christmas, or at least it's very cold and it could snow. In the southern half of the world, they are in summer during Christmas. So not only is it like, Florida stays pretty warm, they're like at the beach, they celebrate Christmas with bonfires and s'mores and all that kind of thing. Their Christmas looks different from ours. It could be still a secular Christmas, it could still be a religious Christmas, but other countries celebrate Christmas in such a different way, which is super interesting. There's also lots of different St. Nicholas and Santa Claus stories, some of which are interesting and some are not very good. Not very good. I have a Dutch heritage, and St. Nick is not a good character in my book. Hanukkah. So also in December is Hanukkah. It is an 8-day celebration, often called the Festival of Lights, but it's to celebrate the rededication of a temple after the miraculous Maccabean revolt. I won't go into a lot of the history because I am not Jewish. I have not studied Hanukkah for a number of years, so I don't have a lot of accurate information for you. But know that within the Jewish belief system, there are also a range of beliefs, of orthodoxy. So how they celebrate Hanukkah might differ a bit to bit from each family. But the thing you will see is like the image I have here, the menorah with the 8 candles for celebrating it over 8 days. This truly miraculous event. Kwanzaa is another holiday that happens. It actually was founded and first celebrated in the US, I believe California, in 1966. And this gentleman invented Kwanzaa, a word, a tribute to, I believe it's Swahili, that means first fruits. But it was created to empower Americans with African roots to celebrate the culture they came from. Initially, his intent was to give African Americans another holiday to celebrate instead of Christmas. He felt very oppressed by Christians. Christianity was often used as an excuse to keep African Americans in slavery. So he initially created it as a way to not celebrate Christmas and to get back to their African roots. And again, I say African American because we are talking specifically about Americans who are descended from Africans. Again, I don't know all of the ins and outs of Kwanzaa, but know that it is a holiday that is celebrated. Some of your people might be celebrating this. It would be really cool to give them a thumbs up to incorporate their holiday somehow in your programming, in your fundraising events. And we'll talk about that in a moment. New Year's is the last holiday that happens in December. We tend to start thinking about New Year's in January. I mean, New Year's Eve is December, and I guess New Year's Day is January, but it all kind of happens around the same time. And it's another great opportunity to have gatherings, to do an event, to do a fundraiser, any of the above. So speaking of fundraisers and events, one of the ideas I have for you is to do a multicultural panel. I listed off a bunch of holidays that happen in December and how they could be celebrated differently depending on your heritage, depending on your country or culture. So that might be really interesting to do. And it doesn't cost a lot. You can record it and post it later. You can make it free. You can have a small fee, especially if you're doing a fundraiser. Make a fee. It's okay to charge for things because you need that income. You need the funds from a fundraiser. A gift drive is another idea that I've seen. So not only can you use this gift drive as an opportunity to receive gifts from the community to give to your client base. I think of food pantries and social services, people serving low-income people, low-income families and children. But you could also accept gifts from your clients to go to another group. So maybe your clients are after-school children and they make Christmas cards to go to Meals on Wheels people. Maybe your group are seniors and they are collecting gifts for cancer patients. So there's a couple of different ways that you can do that. It doesn't always have to be about your agency receiving money or your clients receiving things. Sometimes it's about giving power to your clients so they feel valued, they feel in control, they feel empowered. Because so often in nonprofit culture, our clients are passive recipients in some ways. So I just challenge you to think about some of those ideas. Pen pals. So I've run several pen pal groups and it's a lot more time intensive than people give it credit for, especially if you're working with children and you want to make sure that they're maintaining safe conversations with adults and things like that. But maybe there's a fun one-time pen pal letter you want to do. Maybe you want to partner your seniors with some kids with a local classroom. Just this one time, they exchange a Christmas card. They don't have an ongoing relationship. It's a one-time thing. And again, an idea from a Wise Cove member is a Mrs. Claus reading. She found somebody who will dress up as Mrs. Claus and read some Christmas stories while drinking hot chocolate on Zoom or whatever virtual thing. I use Demio. I think they use Demio too. But I thought that was a fun idea. We have about 12 minutes left. So I see that you guys are exchanging some really great, fun holiday ideas. Please check the chat for those. I am going to keep going right now, talking about the end of the year campaigns. And if we still have some time, I can revisit any questions that are here. If I don't get to your question, I will email you directly with the response, or I can give you a phone call, whichever you prefer. If we don't get to it, yeah. End of the year campaigns or end of the year giving. This usually is the last set of mailers, the last set of events, phone calls, etc. that you do at the end of the year. Just like it says, you're making your last minute pleas and asks, that kind of thing. You get donors involved, you get some high profile community members involved, that kind of thing. I personally, in general, I'm against it. I don't like end of the year campaigns. They feel icky to me. It's like you didn't realize until now that you were behind financially. You didn't realize until now that we weren't going to make the cut. Why weren't you planning ahead of time? Where did my funds go? I gave you a big check. I mean, to me, that was a big check. What did you do with it? Why are you in this position now that you need to do this end of the year plea to us? It feels icky. I don't like it. And I think it gives the wrong impression of your organization, and it feels like spam too to your client base, your donor base, and stakeholders. It feels kind of like spam. So in general, I'm not a fan of it. The caveat is if your end of the year campaign is an annual thing you do every year. So you have a December Christmas party every year, a Thanksgiving thing every year. And this is when you do your big ticket things. That's okay. That's different. Having a planned thing is different than running an end of the year campaign, an end of the fiscal year. I don't like it. If you are going to do it, because especially 2020 has been very difficult in a lot of ways, and people understand that, start as soon as possible so it doesn't feel like the final hour. You're not putting pressure on your community members to help you meet your bottom line. As a leader and a manager, you really should be on top of that, but do it as soon as possible. Be super thoughtful and be very intentional with how you go about doing this. It's really easy to use the holidays to pull on heartstrings. It's really easy to use the holidays and end of the year type of campaigning to pull out any straggling donors. I understand that for some people and families, they are waiting until the end of the year to find out how much more they have to give for it to be a write-off on their taxes, which is fine. That's how they're handling it. But I really encourage you throughout the year to be intentional about getting in front of people with your mission, your vision, your programs and services, so they're not learning about you at the last second and giving you their last second donation. You could cultivate a lot more from them from a more meaningful relationship. But thoughtful and intentional. So what I mean by thoughtful and intentional could be something along the lines of, this is how much you have helped us in the past. COVID has been really hard for X, Y, and Z reasons. We plan on reopening our services, yada, yada. If you are doing an end of the year campaign because you are behind on cash, I believe you need to be really intentional with how you are sharing information. If they're going to give to you last minute, you should show them up front that you have a plan. You're not coming to them and this is like going to be the end of the relationship. You're coming to them with a plan and you are going to maintain this relationship. You are going to follow up. You are going to do X, Y, and Z. You need to have put some of yourself and your agency into this. Have your board members make the call. Sometimes for small communities, well-known people, sometimes are like, oh, whatever. But other times it's like, oh, that person, they post on Facebook all the time and I've never actually met them in person. They are telling me to support this center. Like, wow, I would love to do that and get on their train. Like, that's so cool. So be thoughtful, be intentional. Even with the marketing channels that you choose, you don't want to hit people from all the directions. Marketing and advertising suggests that you hit them with 3 channels, but don't do more than that for an end of the year campaign. Planned giving. I like talking about planned giving. I like having a plan. It feels so. I'm a fan of structure. Maybe that's type A of me. But thinking about this end of the year campaign business and how that feels icky and how it feels desperate and it makes people question the validity of this business and organization that you've been running, that all of a sudden at the end of the year, where did your money go? Planned giving helps people feel the opposite. Thinking about planned giving, we're thinking about major events, we're thinking about major donors, donation drives. What big amounts, what big pots of money are we expecting in a year? When are people planning on giving to us? So when are major events? How much do those bring in? Excuse me. Who are our major donors? How much do they give and when do they give it? Also, you can ask why. In fundraising, we ask the 5 whys to get to the heart of why someone may or may not be donating to your cause. When do your donation drives occur? These types of things are all questions that I would ask. I, in general, do not include grant funds as part of your planned giving. Grant funds are given to you by a foundation or something similar, and they are giving to you for a very specific purpose and reason. These need to go into restricted funds and not into your general operating budget. Whereas major events and donors, donation drives, fundraisers, those are to support your general operating procedures. Of course, there's exceptions. There are some grants that are out there that are for operating costs, so that would go into your regular budget. I would caution you against putting all of it in your budget, planning on it every year, because there's always the chance, like in COVID, something's going to happen and change the landscape. Something's going to happen and they're going to cut how much funding they give you or cut it altogether. So to prepare yourself for that, always plan revenue on the low side and plan expenses on the high side. From a fiscal management perspective, that's fiscal management 101, I suppose. My pro tip for planned giving is to always use a calendar. If it is not on a calendar, if it's just living in somebody's head, it's not really planned giving. You haven't planned it out. You haven't solidified a relationship, which you need to do. We'll talk about cultivating donors in a different webinar. But as you are working with some of these people and these events, you need to have planned out when these things are going to happen. And you're not planning them out just so you can hold one of your donors accountable, but you're doing it to spread out your asking of the community for different things. I also suggest for community-based services, especially if you're in a small community, look to see when other people are doing their events, because those are either opportunities to jump on and coincide with, or they are times to stay clear and stay away. You don't want to compete for money during that time. I'm going to show you the calendar that I created, and I'm sharing with you in just a moment. Okay, you should have that to download. But this is my planned giving worksheet. You print this out on a PDF. You can write in each of the boxes something that's going on. Most people prefer to put this on their personal calendar. This is just a worksheet, so you can kind of work through a few things. Don't feel like you have to keep this. You can reprint it later if you want to do the year after and the year after. This is a worksheet. It is a communication tool. So maybe at the beginning of January, you have your New Year's Day festival. So maybe you do something special right at the beginning of the year, which I love that kind of model. So in the event or donor section, you would write New Year's fundraiser and the amount you usually receive historically. Maybe you have someone else who usually gives during January for memorial reasons. And you can put their name here and the amount that they usually give. So now you see this is roughly the income that we're going to be getting this month. And then you go on to February and you do the same thing. Turns out in March, there's a town, what's in March? I can't even think of it. St. Patrick's Day. Oh my gosh. So it turns out in March, there's a St. Patrick's Day parade and all of the other nonprofits are participating in it. Actually, this is something I want to do too. It's not necessarily a planned giving thing, but it's a great opportunity to get myself out in front of them. So that's your event for the month. And then you go on to April and May, and you just repeat this exercise over and over. For each month, you can leave notes, special notes here. I suggest doing this with your board, with your staff, any finance committee that you have. Get everybody on the same page about when significant funds come in. If there's like 2 or 3 months in a row where you're not doing any planned giving or planned solicitation, you need to change that. That means you're putting too much on these other events. Also, you should be making a significant amount more than what you spend. I was working with an organization who spent about $1,500 on their fundraiser event, and they got $2,200 back. They covered their costs, and then they got an extra 500, 700, 1,000. That's not a good use of your money. Fundraisers need to be significant events. So plan appropriately and make them happen that way. We are butting up on 1 hour. So I will be following up with you all directly with any questions that you still have. I see a lot of great ideas exchanged in this chat, and it looks like everything has been made public. So thank you, everyone, for all of the wonderful things that you contributed to this today. I look forward to following up with some of you. You're going to get this replay in your email about an hour after we close this. If there's anything else you need, again, my email is here. Feel free to reach out to me. Have a good day, everybody. Bye.